ordinary city bus, she felt more authentic than she had in months. The bus lurched to a stop at Fifth Avenue, and Emma watched through the rain-streaked window as a woman in scrubs hurried aboard, shaking water from her worn jacket. The woman looked exhausted, the kind of bone-deep tiredness that came from working multiple shifts and carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She fumbled for exact change, apologizing softly to the driver as she counted out quarters and dimes with trembling fingers. Emma's heart clenched unexpectedly. When was the last time she'd had to count coins for anything? When had she last worried about having enough money for bus fare? The woman found a seat near the middle of the bus, and Emma noticed how she immediately pulled out a small notebook, writing frantically as if afraid she might forget something important. There was an urgency in her movements, a desperation that spoke of someone trying to hold their world together with sheer willpower alone. As the bus continued its route through the city, Emma found herself watching other passengers with new eyes. The elderly man clutching an envelope marked "Final Notice" and shaking hands. The teenager with holes in his shoes, studying from a library book with pages falling out. The mother bouncing a crying baby, while simultaneously trying to keep her toddler from climbing over the seats. Each person carried stories of struggle, hope, and perseverance that her wealth had insulated her from for so long. The woman in scrubs got off at the hospital district, but in her haste to gather her things and comfort her crying baby, she left something behind. Emma watched as the small notebook slipped from the woman's purse and slid under the seat. The bus doors closed before Emma could call out, and she watched helplessly as the woman disappeared into the crowd outside the hospital entrance. For several stops, Emma stared at the spot where the notebook had fallen, debating whether to retrieve it. Finally, curiosity and something deeper, a longing for genuine human connection, compelled her to move forward and pick it up. The cover was worn and water-stained, held together with rubber bands and obviously well-loved. Written in faded ink on the front were the words, "Maya's Thoughts, Private." Emma settled back into her seat, the notebook feeling heavy in her hands. She knew she should turn it in to the bus driver or the lost and found, but something made her hesitate. The woman had seemed so distressed, so overwhelmed. What if this contained important information? Phone numbers, addresses, medical information about her baby. Emma told herself she was being practical, responsible even, as she carefully opened the cover. The first page hit her like a physical blow. Written in careful, precise handwriting that spoke of someone who chose their words with deliberate care, she read, "Day 847 since Marcus left. Isabella turned 2 today. I sang happy birthday in our tiny kitchen while she clapped her hands, and for a moment, I forgot that we're 3 months behind on rent. I forgot that I've been surviving on peanut butter sandwiches so she can have proper meals. I forgot that her father doesn't even know she exists." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Emma's hands trembled as she continued reading. Sometimes I wonder if I'm strong enough for this.
Today at the grocery store, Isabella pointed at the toy aisle and said, "Mama, Dolly," in that sweet voice that melts my heart every single time. I had to explain that we couldn't get the dolly today, maybe next week. But there won't be a next week for dollies. There's barely money for diapers and formula. I watched her little face fall, and I died a little inside. Each page revealed more of Maya's world, a universe of small miracles and enormous challenges that Emma had never imagined. Maya worked double shifts as a nursing assistant at 3 different facilities, catching buses between jobs and barely making ends meet. She wrote about Isabella's first words, her first steps, her infectious laughter that made even the darkest days bearable. But she also wrote about the crushing weight of single motherhood, the isolation, the constant fear of not being enough. "I dream sometimes of giving Isabella everything she deserves," Maya had written. "A safe neighborhood where she can play outside. Art classes because she loves to draw. Music lessons because she dances every time she hears a song. I want to give her the world, but most days I can barely give her stability." Last night she asked why we don't have a daddy like the other kids at daycare. How do you explain to a 2-year-old that her father chose his freedom over her existence? Emma found herself completely absorbed in Maya's words, missing her stop and riding the bus to the end of the line. Maya wrote about working Christmas Day, while Isabella stayed with their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who charged nothing but accepted whatever Maya could afford to pay. She wrote about Isabella getting sick, and Maya having to choose between taking her to the doctor or paying the electric bill. She wrote about the crushing guilt of working so much that she sometimes felt like a stranger to her own daughter. But it wasn't all hardship. Maya's love for her daughter radiated from every page. She documented Isabella's funny sayings, her boundless curiosity, her sweet attempts to help with household chores. "Today Isabella tried to make me breakfast," Maya had written. "She climbed on a chair and dumped cereal all over the counter, then stirred it with a wooden spoon and presented it to me as morning food. I cried, not because of the mess, but because of how proud she looked. This little girl is teaching me that love multiplies when you give it away." Emma realized she was crying as she read, tears falling onto the pages of Maya's intimate thoughts. Here was a woman facing unimaginable challenges with grace, raising a child with nothing but love and determination, finding joy in the smallest moments while Emma had been drowning in the emptiness of her own success. Maya's words revealed a richness of spirit that no amount of money could buy, an authenticity that Emma's world of boardrooms and business deals had stripped away from her. As the bus reached the depot and the driver announced the end of the line, Emma carefully closed the notebook. She had to find Maya. Not because she wanted to play savior or assuage some guilt about her privileged life, but because Maya's words had awakened something in her that she thought she'd lost forever. The ability to feel genuine human connection, to recognize real strength, to understand what truly mattered in life. The notebook contained no last name, no address, just references to the 3 medical facilities where Maya worked and the hospital district where she'd gotten off the bus. Emma had built her technology empire by solving complex problems, by finding ways to connect people and information across vast networks. Now she would use every resource at her disposal, not for profit or recognition, but for something infinitely more valuable, the chance to meet the woman whose diary had reminded her what it meant to be human. Emma stepped off the bus into the rain, her mind already racing with plans. She would find Maya, but she would have to be careful. The last thing the struggling single mother needed was to feel exposed or vulnerable because a stranger had read her most private thoughts. Emma would have to approach this delicately, respectfully, in a way that honored the trust Maya had unknowingly placed in her words. As she walked back toward her building, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years, purpose that had nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market share. Maya's diary had shown her a different kind of success, measured not in dollars or achievements, but in the daily acts of love and sacrifice that created a good life. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Emma felt truly awake. The rain had stopped by the time she reached her penthouse, but Emma barely noticed. Her mind was consumed with Maya's words, with Isabella's innocent questions, with the image of a mother singing happy birthday in a tiny kitchen while carrying the weight of impossible choices. Emma had spent years building walls around herself, insulating her heart behind professional accomplishments and financial security. Maya's diary had shown her what lay beyond those walls, a world of genuine connection, real challenges and love that transformed struggle into strength. That night, Emma sat in her pristine apartment, Maya's diary on the coffee table before her, and began to plan. She would find this remarkable woman and her daughter, not as the billionaire CEO who could solve their problems with a checkbook, but as Emma, just Emma, grateful for the gift of Maya's words and hoping to discover what real wealth looked like in the hands of someone who understood its true value. The search for Maya would begin tomorrow, but tonight, Emma would read every page of the diary again, letting Maya's courage inspire her own transformation from successful stranger to someone worthy of the connection she so desperately craved. The next morning arrived with brilliant sunshine, a stark contrast to the previous day's storm, and Emma found herself awake before dawn for the first time in months. Maya's diary lay open beside her bed where she'd fallen asleep reading it for the 3rd time. Each page had revealed new layers of strength and vulnerability that left Emma both humbled and inspired. She'd built an empire by understanding systems and connections, but Maya's words had taught her about a different kind of network, one built on love, sacrifice, and the quiet heroism of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Emma's first instinct was to use her corporate resources to track down Maya immediately. A few phone calls to the hospitals, some strategic inquiries, maybe even hiring a private investigator. But something about that approach felt wrong, almost predatory. Maya's diary revealed someone who valued privacy and dignity above all else, someone who would likely be mortified to know that a stranger had read her most intimate thoughts. If Emma was going to find her, it had to be done with respect and genuine intention. Instead of mobilizing her usual army of assistants and researchers, Emma decided to retrace Maya's steps herself. She dressed in simple jeans and a sweater, leaving behind the designer clothes and expensive jewelry that marked her as different from everyone else. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself, not because of the casual clothes, but because of something intangible that had changed in her expression. There was a warmth there, a purpose that had been missing for far too long. The hospital district was a world away from Emma's usual environment of gleaming office buildings and upscale restaurants. Here, the streets bustled with people heading to and from shifts, carrying the weight of other people's pain and healing. Emma visited the first medical facility mentioned in Maya's diary, a rehabilitation center where she'd written about helping elderly patients regain their independence after strokes and surgeries. The receptionist was kind but firm about patient confidentiality, though she did mention that several nursing assistants worked multiple facilities to make ends meet. At the second location, assisted living facility, Emma encountered Mrs. Rodriguez, a veteran nurse who'd been working there for over 20 years. Something about Emma's sincere concern and respectful approach must have come through, because Mrs. Rodriguez agreed to chat during her break. "There are so many dedicated young women working here," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "They come in tired from other jobs, work their hearts out for our residents, then rush off to their next shift. It breaks my heart sometimes, seeing how hard they have to work just to survive." Emma found herself genuinely interested in Mrs. Rodriguez's stories about the nursing assistants who formed the backbone of elder care. These women, mostly single mothers and immigrants, often worked 60 to 70 hours a week across multiple facilities, providing comfort and dignity to people in their most vulnerable moments. "There's one young lady," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, "sweet as can be, always talks about her little girl. The residents just adore her because she treats everyone like family. She hasn't been in for a few days, though. I hope everything's okay." The description could fit Maya, but Emma didn't want to press too hard and raise suspicions. Instead, she thanked Mrs. Rodriguez for her time and continued to the third facility mentioned in the diary. This one was different. A children's hospital where Maya had written about working in the pediatric wing, helping care for young patients while thinking about her own daughter at home. The irony wasn't lost on Emma. Maya was caring for other people's children while struggling to provide for her own. As Emma sat in the hospital cafeteria, watching medical staff grab quick meals between shifts, she began to understand the ecosystem Maya inhabited. These were people driven by compassion and necessity, working multiple jobs not just for money, but because they genuinely cared about helping others. Emma had spent years in boardrooms where decisions affected millions of people in abstract ways. But Maya worked with her hands and heart, making individual lives better one patient at a time. Her phone buzzed with messages from her assistant, her board members, various business partners wondering where she was and why she wasn't responding to emails. For once, Emma didn't feel the familiar anxiety about staying connected to her corporate responsibilities. Maya's diary had shown her what really mattered, and it wasn't quarterly projections or market strategies. On her way out of the children's hospital, Emma stopped at the information desk, where a volunteer named Helen was organizing get-well cards from local schools. "Excuse me," Emma said carefully. "I'm trying to reconnect with someone who works here. A nursing assistant, single mother, very dedicated to her work." Helen's face lit up with recognition. "Oh, you must mean Maya. Such a sweet girl. And that little daughter of hers is absolutely precious. She brings Isabella by sometimes after her shift, and all the nurses just melt. That little one has the biggest smile and the most curious eyes. Maya's been off for a few days, though. I think Isabella had a fever. Poor thing. You know how it is for single mothers. When the baby gets sick, everything else has to wait." Emma's heart raced. This was her, Maya and Isabella. But Helen's words also triggered concern. If Isabella was sick and Maya had missed work, their already tight finances would be stretched even thinner. Emma thanked Helen and asked if there was any way to get a message to Maya when she returned. "I could give her your number," Helen offered kindly. "She's always grateful when people reach out." Doesn't have much family support, you know. It's just her and that sweet baby against the world. Emma realized she couldn't just leave her real number. One quick internet search would reveal exactly who she was, and that would change everything. Instead, she gave Helen her personal cell number, the one she used only for family emergencies, and asked her to simply say that someone wanted to return something Maya had lost. Walking back through the city, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. She was close to finding Maya, but what would she say when they met? How could she explain reading the diary without seeming like an invasion of privacy? How could she help without making Maya feel like a charity case? Emma had negotiated billion-dollar deals with world leaders, but the prospect of this conversation felt more important and more challenging than anything she'd ever faced. That evening, Emma did something she hadn't done in years. She cooked for herself. Nothing fancy, just pasta and vegetables. But the simple act of preparing food with her own hands felt meaningful after reading about Maya's careful budgeting for Isabella's meals. As she ate dinner in her enormous dining room, Emma thought about Maya and Isabella sharing meals in their tiny kitchen, finding joy and gratitude in the simplest moments together. The call came the next afternoon while Emma was in her office, trying to focus on a presentation about emerging markets in Southeast Asia. Her personal phone rang, and an unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. Emma's heart stopped as she answered. "Hello, this is Maya." The voice was soft, tired, but carried an underlying strength that Emma recognized from the diary entries. "Someone at the hospital said you wanted to return something I lost?" Emma took a deep breath, knowing that the next few words would determine everything. "Yes, I found your diary on the bus yesterday. I wanted to make sure it got back to you safely." There was a long pause. "My diary?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. You read it?" "I'm so sorry," Emma said quickly. "I was trying to figure out how to return it to you, and I read a few pages to see if there was contact information. I know it was private, and I apologize completely." Another pause. "Which bus? When?" "Yesterday morning, around 8:30. The number 47 that goes through the hospital district. You were getting off at General Medical, and it slipped from your purse. I've been trying to find you ever since." Maya's breathing was audible over the phone. "You've been looking for me for 2 days? Why would you do that? You could have just thrown it away." Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. "Because your words, they meant something to me. They showed me what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. I couldn't just throw that away." There was silence on the line for so long that Emma wondered if the call had dropped. Then Maya spoke again, her voice thick with emotion. "Did you read all of it?" "Most of it," Emma admitted. "I know about Isabella, about how hard you're working, about how much you love her. I know about the struggles and the dreams and the moments of joy you find, even when everything seems impossible." "I don't understand," Maya said. "You're a complete stranger. Why would you care about any of that?" Emma closed her eyes, knowing this was the moment of truth. "Because I've spent so many years focused on success and achievement that I forgot what really matters. Your diary reminded me. Your love for Isabella, your strength in the face of impossible challenges, your ability to find beauty in small moments. You showed me what I've been missing in my own life. I need my diary back," Maya said quietly. It's all I have, all the memories, all the thoughts I can't say out loud. It's the only place I can be completely honest about how scared I am sometimes." "Of course," Emma said immediately. "When can we meet? Wherever is convenient for you." "There's a small park near my apartment," Maya said hesitantly. "Riverside Park, by the old playground. Tomorrow at noon? Isabella will be with me. I can't afford babysitting right now." "That's perfect," Emma said. "I'm looking forward to meeting both of you. And Maya, thank you for trusting me with this." After hanging up, Emma sat in her office chair, staring out at the city skyline with new eyes. Tomorrow she would meet the woman whose words had changed her perspective on everything. She thought about Maya's entry from just a week ago. "Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible, like my struggles don't matter to anyone except Isabella and me. But maybe that's enough. Maybe being someone's whole world is the most important thing anyone can be." Emma had spent her career trying to be important to everyone, building a company that touched millions of lives in abstract ways. But Maya had shown her a different kind of significance, the profound impact of being everything to one small person, of creating love and security in the midst of uncertainty. of finding purpose in the daily acts of care and sacrifice that no one else would ever see or celebrate. The next morning, Emma arrived at Riverside Park 15 minutes early, Maya's diary carefully wrapped in tissue paper and placed in a simple bag. The playground was old but well-maintained, with swings that squeaked gently in the breeze and a small fountain where children could play on hot days. Emma sat on a bench facing the entrance, her heart racing with anticipation and nervousness. At exactly noon, she saw them. Maya was pushing a stroller with a toddler who could only be Isabella. Beautiful dark curls, bright eyes that seemed to take in everything around her with wonder and curiosity. Maya looked younger than Emma had expected, probably mid-20s, with a kind of natural beauty that no amount of expensive cosmetics could replicate. She was dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, but there was a grace in her movements that spoke of someone comfortable in her own skin despite her circumstances. Emma stood up as they approached, and their eyes met across the small park. There was wariness in Maya's expression, but also curiosity and something that might have been hope. Isabella babbled happily from her stroller, pointing at birds and reaching for leaves that danced in the breeze. "Maya," Emma asked softly. "You're not what I expected," Maya said, studying Emma's face. "You sound different on the phone. Older, maybe." Emma smiled. "I'm 32. And you're not what I expected either. Your words made you seem, I don't know, bigger somehow, more imposing." Maya laughed, a sound like music that made Isabella clap her hands in delight. "I'm 5'3" and barely weigh 100 pounds. Not very imposing. "Your spirit is imposing," Emma said seriously. "Your strength, your determination, your love for Isabella. That comes through in every word you wrote." They sat together on the bench while Isabella played with a small toy in her stroller. Emma handed Maya the wrapped diary, and Maya clutched it to her chest like a lifeline. "I thought I'd lost everything," Maya said quietly. "All of Isabella's milestones, all my thoughts about her father, all the plans and dreams I write down when I can't sleep. This diary is my sanity." "I can understand that," Emma said. "I've never kept a journal, but after reading yours, I think I should start. You have a gift for capturing truth in words." Maya looked at her curiously. "What do you do? For work, I mean. You speak like someone educated, someone important." Emma hesitated. This was the moment she'd been dreading. "I work in technology. I run a company that develops software." "That must be interesting," Maya said politely. "I barely understand how my phone works, let alone software." Isabella chose that moment to drop her toy and begin fussing. Maya immediately knelt down to comfort her daughter, speaking in soft, soothing tones that calmed the toddler instantly. Emma watched the interaction with fascination. Here was love in action, patient and gentle, and completely focused on another person's needs. "She's beautiful," Emma said, when Maya settled back on the bench with Isabella on her lap. "She's everything," Maya replied simply. "Some days I wonder if I'm enough for her, if I can give her everything she deserves. But then she looks at me like I hung the stars, and I remember that love is the most important thing I can give her." Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. "Your diary entry about her asking for a dolly at the store, that broke my heart." Maya's cheeks flushed. "I can't believe you read that. Some of those entries are so personal, so raw. I write things I could never say out loud." "That's what made them so powerful," Emma said. "Your honesty, your vulnerability. In my world, people are always trying to project success and confidence. No one admits to struggling or being afraid. But you wrote about fear and love and hope with such courage." "Courage?" Maya laughed, but not unkindly. "I don't feel courageous. I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water most days." "That's exactly what courage is," Emma said firmly. "It's not the absence of fear. It's continuing to love and hope and fight for what matters despite being afraid." They talked for over an hour, watching Isabella explore the playground with the fearless enthusiasm of a 2-year-old. Maya spoke about her dreams for her daughter's future, her concerns about Isabella not having a father figure, her struggles with working multiple jobs while trying to be present as a mother. Emma found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone: her loneliness despite her success, her feeling of disconnection from her own life, her growing certainty that wealth without purpose was just elaborate emptiness. As the afternoon sun began to slant across the park, Maya started gathering Isabella's things. "I should go," she said reluctantly. "Isabella needs her nap, and I have a shift at 6. Emma felt panic at the thought of this ending. Could we meet again sometime? I know this is strange, but talking with you has meant more to me than I can explain." Maya looked at her thoughtfully. "You're not what I expected when I thought about someone reading my diary. I thought I'd be embarrassed or angry, but instead I feel understood, like someone finally sees what my life is really like." "I do see it," Emma said earnestly, "and what I see is remarkable. You're raising an incredible little girl with nothing but love and determination. You're working multiple jobs to provide for her while still finding moments of joy and gratitude. You're everything I wish I could be." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, genuinely puzzled. Emma took a deep breath. "I have everything the world says should make me happy. Money, success, recognition. But I've never loved anyone the way you love Isabella. I've never sacrificed for something bigger than myself. I've never found purpose in taking care of someone else. Reading your diary showed me what I've been missing." Maya was quiet for a long moment, gently rocking Isabella, who was drowsing in her stroller. "Would you like to have dinner with us sometime?" "Nothing fancy. Probably just pasta or grilled cheese in my tiny kitchen. But Isabella would love the company, and honestly, so would I. It gets lonely sometimes, being the only adult in a toddler's world." Emma's heart soared. "I would love that more than anything." As they exchanged phone numbers and made plans for the following week, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Genuine excitement about the future that had nothing to do with business or profit. Maya gathered her things and began pushing Isabella's stroller toward the park exit, then turned back. "Thank you," she called out, "for finding me, for returning my diary, for seeing something worthwhile in my words." "Thank you," Emma called back, "for showing me what really matters, for reminding me what it means to be human." Emma watched until Maya and Isabella disappeared around the corner, then sat back down on the bench in the empty park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Emma felt truly at peace. She'd built her fortune by recognizing valuable opportunities others missed, but finding Maya's diary had been the most important discovery of her life. Pulling out her phone, Emma canceled her evening meetings and called her assistant to clear her schedule for the next few days. She had more important things to do than attend board meetings or review quarterly projections. She had a new friendship to nurture, a different kind of wealth to explore, and a life to rebuild around the values Maya's words had awakened in her heart. As she walked home through the city streets, Emma began planning not corporate strategies but simple gestures of friendship, books for Isabella, cooking tips to share with Maya, ways to be helpful without being overwhelming. She thought about Maya's dream of giving Isabella art classes and music lessons, and smiled as she imagined ways to make those dreams come true. The billionaire who had found a single mother's diary on a bus had discovered something more valuable than any business deal. She'd found her way back to her own humanity, and in doing so had found a friend whose courage and love would inspire her for years to come. Maya's words had changed Emma's life, but their story was just beginning, built on the foundation of genuine connection that money could never buy but the human heart could create. The week that followed their meeting in the park transformed Emma's entire perspective on what constituted a meaningful day. Instead of waking up to stock reports and urgent emails, she found herself thinking about Maya's morning routine, getting Isabella dressed while preparing breakfast, probably singing songs to make the mundane tasks feel magical. Emma had read about these moments in the diary, but now she could picture them with startling clarity, having seen the tender way Maya interacted with her daughter. Emma's corporate world suddenly felt surreal by comparison. During a board meeting that Wednesday, while listening to executives debate the merits of acquiring a smaller competitor, Emma found herself thinking about Maya's entry, describing how she'd taught Isabella to count using dried beans because they couldn't afford educational toys. The contrast was staggering, millions of dollars being discussed casually in the boardroom, while a brilliant young mother was creating learning opportunities from kitchen supplies. "Emma, your thoughts on the Q3 projections?" her CFO asked, jolting her back to the present. I think we should focus more on human impact, Emma heard herself say. What does our growth actually mean for real people? How are we making individual lives better? The room fell silent. Her executives exchanged glances, clearly wondering if their CEO was having some kind of breakdown. Emma had built Richardson Technologies on ruthless efficiency and market dominance, not humanitarian concerns. That's an interesting perspective, her VP of Development said carefully. Are you suggesting we pivot towards social responsibility initiatives? Emma looked around the table at faces she'd known for years. Brilliant minds focused solely on profit margins and competitive advantages. When had she stopped seeing them as people and started viewing them as extensions of her corporate machine? I'm suggesting we remember that behind every user statistic is a human being with dreams, struggles, and stories worth considering. After the meeting, Emma's assistant followed her into her office with obvious concern. Is everything all right? You seem different lately. More philosophical. Emma smiled, thinking of Maya's observation that people rarely asked each other how they were really doing. I'm discovering what actually matters, Sarah, and it's not what I thought it was. That evening, Emma drove to Maya's neighborhood, a world away from her penthouse district. The buildings were older, the streets narrower, but there was life here in a way her sterile, upscale area lacked. Children played on stoops while parents chatted with neighbors. Small businesses displayed handwritten signs advertising services in multiple languages. This was community in its truest form, people looking out for each other not because they had to, but because they understood that connection was survival. Maya's apartment building was a modest three-story structure with a small garden in front where someone had planted vegetables between the flowers. Emma climbed to the second floor and knocked on the door marked 2B, her heart racing with anticipation. Maya opened the door wearing an apron dusted with flour, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, looking more beautiful than any supermodel Emma had ever seen on magazine covers. "You're early," Maya said, but her smile was warm and welcoming. Isabella has been asking about Emma lady all day. The apartment was tiny but immaculate, every inch used efficiently and decorated with obvious care. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator, plants thrived on windowsills, and the smell of homemade bread filled the air. Isabella came running from the living room, her face lighting up when she saw Emma. Emma lady, she squealed, reaching up to be picked up. Emma lifted the toddler carefully, amazed by how natural it felt. Hello, beautiful girl. What have you been doing today? Cookies, Isabella announced proudly, pointing toward the kitchen. Mama make cookies. We've been baking, Maya explained, looking slightly embarrassed. I wanted to make something special, but I'm not much of a cook. Fair warning, they might be a little burned. Emma followed Maya into the kitchen, still carrying Isabella, and was struck by how different this felt from her usual social interactions. No pretense, no agenda, just genuine hospitality from someone who had very little to spare but was willing to share it anyway. The contrast with her usual dinner parties, catered affairs in restaurants where conversations focused on business deals and social positioning, couldn't have been more stark. Can I help with anything? Emma asked, setting Isabella down to play with wooden spoons on the floor. Just keep me company, Maya said, stirring something that smelled like heaven in a pot on the stove. I made spaghetti with meat sauce, nothing fancy, but it's Isabella's favorite. As Maya cooked, Emma watched her move through the small space with practiced efficiency. Every motion had purpose. Every ingredient was used completely. Nothing was wasted. Maya's diary had mentioned how carefully she planned meals to stretch their grocery budget, but seeing it in action gave Emma new appreciation for the skill involved in making limited resources feel abundant. Tell me about your work, Maya said, glancing over her shoulder. Software development sounds so complicated. What exactly does your company do? Emma hesitated, not wanting to lie but also not ready to reveal the full extent of her wealth and position. We create programs that help businesses manage their data more efficiently, cloud storage, organizational systems, things like that. That must be satisfying, Maya said genuinely, helping people be more organized, solve problems. I can barely keep track of my own schedule sometimes. Isabella tugged on Emma's pant leg, holding up a wooden spoon like a microphone. Sing, Emma lady. Oh, I'm not much of a singer, Emma laughed, but Maya encouraged her. She loves music. I sing to her all the time, badly, but she doesn't seem to mind. Emma found herself sitting on the kitchen floor with Isabella, making up silly songs about cooking and kitties while Maya finished preparing dinner. The little girl's laughter was infectious, and Emma discovered muscles in her face that had been unused for months as she smiled more in 30 minutes than she had in weeks. Dinner was served at a small table with mismatched chairs, but the atmosphere was warmer than any five-star restaurant Emma had ever experienced. Isabella sat in a booster seat between them, chattering constantly and occasionally throwing pieces of pasta for the pure joy of watching them fly. Maya patiently cleaned up each mess without frustration, turning even discipline into a teaching moment. "Tell me about growing up," Emma said, fascinated by how Maya had developed such natural parenting instincts so young. Maya's expression grew wistful. "My parents died in a car accident when I was 20. They were wonderful. Taught me that love was the most important thing you could give someone, even when you didn't have much else." They would have adored Isabella. "I'm so sorry," Emma said softly. "That must have been devastating." "It was," Maya admitted, helping Isabella with her sippy cup. "But it also taught me not to take anything for granted. Every day with Isabella is precious, because I know how quickly everything can change." Emma thought about her own parents. Alive and well, but distant, their relationship built more on obligation than affection. They'd taught her to value achievement and success, but had never sat on kitchen floors singing silly songs or found joy in sharing simple meals. After dinner, while Isabella played with building blocks in the living room, Emma helped Maya wash dishes in the small sink. Their hands brushed occasionally as they passed plates and cups, and Emma felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the hot water. "Thank you for this," Emma said quietly. "I can't remember the last time I felt so peaceful." Maya looked at her curiously. "What's your life usually like? You seem like you carry a lot of stress." Emma considered how to answer honestly without revealing everything. "I work too much, I think. I've built my life around success and achievement, but lately I've been wondering what the point of any of it is if you don't have people to share it with." "Loneliness is hard," Maya said with understanding. "After Isabella's father left, I felt so isolated. Even in crowds, I felt invisible. That's why I started the diary. I needed somewhere to be completely honest about how scared and alone I felt." "You're not alone now," Emma said impulsively. "I mean, you have me. As a friend if you want." Maya smiled, and the warmth in her expression made Emma's heart skip. "I'd like that very much. Isabella needs more positive people in her life, and honestly, so do I." As the evening wound down, Emma found herself reluctant to leave this haven of genuine connection. Isabella fell asleep in Maya's arms while they sat on the small couch, and Emma watched in wonder as Maya stroked her daughter's hair with infinite tenderness. "She's lucky to have you," Emma whispered. "I'm the lucky one," Maya replied. "She saved my life, gave me purpose when I thought I'd lost everything. Some people think being a single mother is a tragedy, but Isabella is the best thing that ever happened to me." Emma felt tears forming as she recognized the profound truth in Maya's words. Here was a woman who had discovered what Emma had been searching for her entire adult life: purpose that transcended personal ambition, love that transformed sacrifice into joy, meaning that couldn't be measured in dollars or achievements. Walking home through the city streets, Emma felt fundamentally changed by the evening. Maya's tiny apartment had contained more warmth and authenticity than her palatial penthouse had ever held. The simple meal shared with genuine affection had nourished her soul in ways five-star dining never could. Isabella's innocent joy had reminded her what wonder looked like, what it meant to find magic in ordinary moments. The next morning, Emma made a decision that surprised even her. Instead of heading to her office, she drove to a children's toy store in Maya's neighborhood. She wandered the aisles, remembering Isabella's fascination with building blocks and musical instruments, Maya's diary entries about toys they couldn't afford, and dreams she held for her daughter's future. Emma selected carefully: art supplies because Maya had mentioned Isabella's love of drawing, a small keyboard because music brought the toddler such joy, books because Maya had written about reading bedtime stories from library books with pages falling out. Nothing too expensive or overwhelming, just thoughtful gifts that acknowledged what she'd learned about Isabella's interests. At the checkout counter, the elderly clerk smiled knowingly. "Shopping for a special little one?" "Very special," Emma agreed, thinking about Isabella's bright eyes and infectious laughter. "Children don't need much to be happy," the clerk observed. "Just love and attention. Sounds like this little one has both." That afternoon, Emma received a text from Maya. "Isabella keeps asking when Emma Lady is coming back. You've made quite an impression." Emma smiled, typing back, "I have some small gifts for Isabella if that's okay. Nothing big, just things I thought she might enjoy." The response came quickly. "You don't need to do that, but Isabella would be thrilled. She's never had someone besides me pay attention to what she likes." Emma's heart ached at those words. Isabella was such a bright, engaging child. She deserved to be celebrated and cherished by more than just her devoted mother. Emma thought about her own childhood, surrounded by material abundance but starved for genuine attention and affection. Maya had given Isabella something far more valuable than money could buy. That weekend, Emma returned to Maya's apartment with her carefully chosen gifts. Isabella's reaction was everything she'd hoped for. Pure delight and wonder at each new toy, immediate eagerness to share her excitement with both adults. Watching the little girl's face light up as she discovered the art supplies and tentatively pressed keys on the small keyboard, Emma understood why Maya found such joy in motherhood despite its challenges. "You didn't have to do this," Maya said quietly as Isabella played, but her gratitude was evident. "I wanted to," Emma replied truthfully. "Seeing her happy makes me happy. I've never experienced that before, finding joy in someone else's joy." Maya looked at her with an expression Emma couldn't quite read. "You're different from anyone I've ever met. Successful people don't usually care about the struggles of single mothers and their toddlers." Emma felt the weight of her deception but wasn't ready to reveal the full truth about her wealth and position. Success doesn't mean much if it doesn't translate into kindness. "You've taught me that." As the weeks passed, Emma found herself spending more and more time in Maya's world, and less time focused on her corporate responsibilities. She rearranged meetings to be available when Maya needed someone to watch Isabella during medical appointments. She learned to cook simple meals that appealed to toddler tastes. She discovered the joy of reading bedtime stories and the satisfaction of helping with mundane tasks like laundry and grocery shopping. Her executive team noticed the change immediately. "You're different," her VP of Operations observed during a quarterly review. "More engaged with the human side of our business, less focused on pure metrics." Emma had indeed been implementing changes based on what she'd learned from Maya's world. She'd instituted paid family leave for all employees, created on-site childcare for working parents, and started scholarship programs for employees' children. Her board questioned these initiatives as unnecessary expenses, but Emma saw them as investments in the kind of company culture she should have been building all along. "People aren't just resources," Emma told her confused executives. "They're human beings with families, dreams, struggles. Our success should help them build better lives, not just generate profits." Maya remained unaware of these corporate changes, but she noticed Emma's growing confidence in their friendship. "You seem more relaxed lately," she observed one evening as they prepared dinner together while Isabella napped. "More like yourself." "I'm learning who myself actually is," Emma replied, surprising herself with the honesty. "Spending time with you and Isabella has shown me what really matters." Maya paused in her chopping of vegetables, looking at Emma with something that might have been deeper affection. "You matter to us too. Isabella asks about you every day, and I look forward to seeing you more than I should probably admit." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and unspoken feelings. Emma felt her heart racing as she recognized that her feelings for Maya had grown beyond friendship into something deeper and more complex. But the weight of her hidden identity held her back from exploring those feelings fully. "Maya," Emma said carefully, "there are things about me you don't know. Things that might change how you see me." Maya set down her knife, giving Emma her full attention. "Are you married? In some kind of trouble with the law?" Emma laughed despite her anxiety. "No, nothing like that, but my life is more complicated than I've let you believe." Before Maya could respond, Isabella woke up from her nap calling for Mama, in that sweet voice that melted both women's hearts. The moment of potential revelation passed, but Emma knew she couldn't keep her secret much longer. Maya deserved the truth, and Emma owed her honesty about who she really was. That night, Emma lay in her massive bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Maya's small apartment where 3 people could live comfortably in the space of her walk-in closet alone. She thought about Isabella's wonder at receiving a few simple toys, Maya's gratitude for friendship and help with everyday tasks, the richness of life built on love rather than luxury. Emma had spent years accumulating wealth and achievement, but Maya had shown her what true abundance looked like. It wasn't measured in bank accounts or stock portfolios. It was found in bedtime stories and shared meals, in laughter over spilled milk and comfort during nighttime fears, in the daily choice to love someone more than yourself. Tomorrow she would tell Maya the truth about who she was, about the resources at her disposal, about the ways she could help fulfill the dreams Maya had written about in her diary. But she would also tell her about the emptiness of success without love, the isolation of achievement without connection, the hunger for meaning that only Maya and Isabella had been able to satisfy. The billionaire who had found a diary on a bus had discovered something more valuable than any fortune. She had found her heart, her purpose, and quite possibly her future. Whatever Maya's reaction to learning the truth, Emma knew that this friendship had already transformed her life in ways that would last forever. She had learned what it meant to love without expectation, to give without agenda, to find wealth in the simple act of caring for others. As sleep finally came, Emma dreamed not of board meetings and profit margins, but of tiny hands reaching up to be held, of laughter echoing through small rooms, of a love so pure it had the power to change everything. The morning Emma decided to tell Maya the truth dawned crisp and clear, as if the universe itself was preparing for a moment of reckoning. She stood in her penthouse bathroom, looking at her reflection and practicing words that seemed inadequate for the magnitude of what she needed to reveal. How do you tell someone that you're not just Emma the software developer, but Emma Richardson, CEO of a billion-dollar empire? How do you explain that while they've been struggling to pay for diapers, you've been debating which private jet to purchase? Emma's phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Isabella woke up asking if today is an Emma day. She's wearing her favorite dress because she wants to look pretty for you. The message was accompanied by a photo of Isabella in a tiny yellow sundress, beaming at the camera with chocolate smeared around her mouth from breakfast. The image hit Emma like a physical blow. This innocent child had come to see her as family, had no idea that Emma possessed the resources to transform their lives overnight. The weight of her deception felt heavier than ever, but so did her love for both Maya and Isabella. She had to tell the truth, regardless of the consequences. Emma dressed carefully in simple jeans and a sweater. Not the designer clothes that marked her corporate identity, but the comfortable attire she'd adopted for her visits to Maya's world. She looked around her penthouse one more time, seeing it through Maya's eyes. The excessive space, the expensive artwork, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view that cost more per month than Maya made in a year. Would Maya see this as evidence of Emma's deception? Or would she understand that wealth without love was just an elaborate prison? The drive to Maya's neighborhood felt longer than usual, Emma's mind racing with possible scenarios. Maya might feel betrayed, manipulated, angry that Emma had watched her struggle while possessing the means to help. Or she might feel like a charity case, embarrassed that her private thoughts had been exposed to someone from a completely different world. Either reaction would be justified, and Emma prepared herself for the possibility that this conversation might end their friendship permanently. Maya's building looked smaller today, shabbier in comparison to the gleaming towers of Emma's usual environment. But as Emma climbed the familiar stairs, she felt the same sense of homecoming she'd experienced every time she visited. Maya's apartment contained something her penthouse lacked entirely: the warmth of genuine human connection, the richness of love freely given. Isabella threw herself into Emma's arms the moment the door opened, chattering excitedly about a butterfly she'd seen outside her window. Maya stood behind her daughter, smiling but with something new in her expression, a wariness that suggested she'd sensed Emma's nervousness. "You look serious today," Maya observed as they settled in the living room. Isabella immediately began showing Emma her latest artwork, colorful scribbles that she explained with the elaborate storytelling ability only toddlers possessed. "There's something I need to tell you," Emma said, her heart pounding, "something important about who I really am." Maya's expression grew more guarded. "Are you married? Because if you are, I need to know. Isabella and I can't." "No," Emma interrupted quickly. "I'm not married. It's about my work, my situation. I haven't been completely honest with you." Isabella, oblivious to the tension between the adults, continued coloring while humming one of the songs Emma had taught her. Her innocent presence made Emma's confession feel even more significant. Whatever happened next would affect this precious child who had already experienced enough instability in her short life. "I don't just work in software development," Emma began carefully. "I own the company, a very large company. Richardson Technologies, maybe you've heard of it?" Maya's hand froze halfway to her coffee cup. "Richardson? You mean the technology giant? The company that's always in the news?" Emma nodded, watching Maya's face cycle through confusion, recognition, and something that might have been betrayal. "I'm Emma Richardson. I've been the CEO for 8 years. The company is worth a lot of money." The silence stretched between them, while Isabella continued her artwork, unaware that the adult's world had just shifted dramatically. Maya set down her coffee cup with trembling hands, her mind clearly racing to process this revelation. "You're a billionaire," Maya said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're one of the richest women in the country, and you've been sitting in my tiny apartment eating spaghetti and pretending to be, what, a regular person?" "I wasn't pretending," Emma said urgently. "Everything about our friendship has been real. My feelings for you and Isabella, the conversations we've had, the connection between us, none of that was pretense." Maya stood up abruptly, beginning to pace in the small space. "But you watched me worry about rent, about Isabella's daycare, about whether I could afford to take her to the doctor when she had that fever. You listened to me stress about money while you could have solved all my problems with pocket change." Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. "I wanted to help. I tried to help without revealing who I was. Remember when your rent increase was suddenly canceled? That was me. I own the investment company that bought your building. And Isabella's scholarship opportunities that I've been researching? You've been manipulating my life?" Maya's voice rose slightly, causing Isabella to look up from her coloring with concern. Maya immediately modulated her tone, not wanting to upset her daughter, but the hurt in her expression was unmistakable. "Not manipulating," Emma said desperately. "Trying to help without making you feel like a charity case. I knew if you found out who I was, everything would change. You'd see me as Emma Richardson, the CEO, instead of just Emma, your friend." Isabella abandoned her artwork and walked over to Maya, wrapping her small arms around her mother's legs in a gesture of comfort that broke Emma's heart. This child's instinct to soothe her mother's distress reminded Emma of all the diary entries about Isabella's intuitive kindness, her ability to sense emotions even when adults tried to hide them. "Mama sad?" Isabella asked, looking between the two women with wise eyes that seemed too old for her face. "Mama's okay, sweetheart," Maya said, lifting Isabella onto her hip. "Emma and I are just talking about grown-up things." Emma watched the interaction with a mixture of love and despair. She had found the family she'd never known she wanted, but her deception might have destroyed any chance of being part of it. "Maya, please let me explain," Emma said quietly. "When I found your diary on that bus, I was in the darkest period of my life. I had everything money could buy, but I felt completely empty. Your words saved me. They showed me what real strength looked like, what genuine love meant. I didn't want to be Emma Richardson when I was with you. I wanted to be someone worthy of the connection we built." Maya sat down again, still holding Isabella, her expression softening slightly. "Your diary entry about feeling invisible," she said slowly. "About having everything but feeling like you had nothing. That was real?" "Completely real," Emma confirmed. "I've been isolated for years, surrounded by people who only see my money or my position. You were the first person in longer than I can remember who saw me as just Emma. I was terrified of losing that." Isabella wiggled down from Maya's lap and approached Emma with the serious expression she wore when contemplating something important. She climbed into Emma's lap and patted her cheek gently. "Emma, lady cry?" she asked with a matter-of-fact observation only children possessed. Emma hadn't realized tears were streaming down her face until Isabella pointed them out. "A little bit, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're worried about their friends." "I kiss better," Isabella announced, pressing a sticky kiss to Emma's cheek that somehow eased the ache in her heart. Maya watched this interaction with an expression Emma couldn't read. "She loves you," Maya said finally. "She's never connected with anyone the way she has with you. That's what makes this so complicated." "I love her too," Emma said, meaning it completely. "I love both of you. More than I've ever loved anyone. That's why I should have told you the truth sooner." Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing everything Emma had revealed. "Show me," she said suddenly. "Show you what?" "Your life. Your real life. If we're going to figure out where we go from here, I need to understand who you really are." Emma felt her heart skip. "You want to see my apartment? My office?" "I want to see what $1 billion looks like," Maya said, with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. "I want to understand the world you come from, the one you've been hiding from me." An hour later, Emma was helping Maya buckle Isabella into a car seat in the back of her Tesla, a vehicle that cost more than Maya made in 2 years. Maya ran her hands over the leather interior with something like disbelief, while Isabella was fascinated by the electronic displays and the way the car drove so quietly. "This is just your regular car?" Maya asked as they glided through traffic. "One of them," Emma admitted sheepishly. "I also have a more practical SUV for when I need more space." Maya shook her head in amazement. "I've been taking buses and walking everywhere while you've been driving vehicles that cost more than I'll probably make in my lifetime." Emma's penthouse building was everything Maya had never experienced. Doormen in uniforms, marble lobbies, elevators that required keycards to access certain floors. Isabella was enchanted by the elevator, pressing buttons and giggling at the sensation of rising through the air. Maya remained quiet, absorbing details that confirmed just how different their worlds really were. "Good afternoon, Ms. Richardson," the doorman said respectfully as they entered the lobby. "Shall I have your car brought around for later?" "No, thank you, James," Emma replied, acutely aware of how this interaction must sound to Maya. "We'll be fine for the rest of the day." The elevator ride to the penthouse felt eternal, the tension between the women growing with each passing floor. Isabella provided the only sound, narrating their ascent in her toddler vocabulary while pointing at the numbers lighting up above the doors. When the elevator opened directly into Emma's apartment, Maya's sharp intake of breath was audible. The space was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city, artwork Emma had purchased more for investment than appreciation, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a home. "This is where you live?" Maya asked, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "Alone?" "Alone," Emma confirmed, suddenly seeing her home through Maya's eyes and feeling embarrassed by its excess. "It's too big, too empty. It never felt like home, until I started spending time in your apartment." Isabella immediately began exploring, her excited shrieks bouncing off the high ceilings as she discovered new rooms and marveled at the size of everything. Maya followed more slowly, taking in details that spoke of wealth beyond her comprehension. "This bathroom is bigger than my entire apartment," Maya observed, standing in the doorway of Emma's master suite. "And you have a whole room just for your clothes?" Emma nodded, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the display of her privilege. "I know it's excessive. I bought this place because I thought it was what successful people were supposed to want. But it's never felt like home. It's more like an expensive hotel where I happen to sleep." They found Isabella in Emma's home office, fascinated by the multiple computer screens and the view of the city spread out below. Maya stood behind her daughter, looking at the awards and magazine covers featuring Emma's face, evidence of a level of success and recognition Maya had never imagined. "Forbes calls you one of the most influential women in technology," Maya read from a framed article. "You've been invited to speak at the World Economic Forum. You advise governments on digital policy. And you've been pretending to be just another person struggling to find meaning in life." "I wasn't pretending about struggling to find meaning," Emma said quietly. "All of this, the money, the recognition, the power, it feels hollow when you don't have anyone to share it with. When I read your diary, when I saw how much joy you found in Isabella's laughter, how much purpose you had in caring for her, I realized what I'd been missing." Maya walked to the windows, looking out at a view that encompassed most of the city. I can see my neighborhood from here, she said wonderingly. That tiny speck in the distance. That's where Isabella and I live our entire lives, while you live up here looking down at everything. Emma joined her at the window, following Maya's gaze to the distant buildings that housed so many families like hers, people working multiple jobs, struggling to provide for their children, finding richness and love even when money was scarce. I want to come down from here, Emma said softly. I want to be part of your world, not separated from it by money and status. These past weeks with you and Isabella have been the most real, the most meaningful of my adult life. Isabella, tired from exploring, toddled over to Emma and raised her arms to be picked up. Emma lifted the little girl, who immediately snuggled against her shoulder with the trust that children reserve for people they consider family. She thinks you're her person now, Maya observed, watching her daughter's complete comfort in Emma's arms. Whatever happens between us, I can't let her be hurt by the complications of your situation. Emma felt the weight of Isabella's trust and love, the responsibility of being important to someone so vulnerable and innocent. I would never hurt her, or you. I know I should have been honest from the beginning, but I was afraid of losing what we had. Maya was quiet for a long time, looking out at the city where millions of people lived lives she understood, while Emma existed in a rarefied atmosphere Maya had never imagined entering. Finally, she spoke. I need time to process this, all of it. The fact that you're not who I thought you were. That our friendship was built on a fundamental deception. That you have resources that could change Isabella's entire future. I don't know how to reconcile the Emma I've come to love with Emma Richardson, the billionaire. Emma's heart clenched at Maya's use of the word love, even in the context of friendship. I understand. I know this changes everything. It doesn't change how Isabella feels about you, Maya said, watching her daughter doze in Emma's arms. And it doesn't change the fact that you've shown us both more kindness and attention than anyone else ever has. But I need to figure out what it means, where we go from here. As they prepared to leave the penthouse, Emma felt like she was saying goodbye to more than just her apartment. She was leaving behind the isolation of wealth, the emptiness of success without connection. The person she'd been before Maya's diary taught her what really mattered. The drive back to Maya's neighborhood was quiet, except for Isabella's sleepy chatter about the big house and the tall building. Maya stared out the window, processing revelations that had upended her understanding of their relationship. I'll give you space, Emma said as they arrived at Maya's building. As much time as you need to decide if you can trust me again, if there's a place for me in your life knowing who I really am. Maya unbuckled Isabella from her car seat, her movements careful and deliberate. The diary, she said suddenly. You said reading it saved you. What did you mean? Emma took a deep breath. I was planning to step down from my company, maybe disappear somewhere remote where no one knew who I was. I felt like I'd built this empire, but lost myself in the process. Your words reminded me what it meant to be human, to love someone more than yourself, to find purpose in caring for others. You didn't just save me from loneliness. You saved me from completely losing who I was meant to be. Maya's expression softened. And now? Now I want to be the person your friendship helped me become. I want to use everything I have, the money, the influence, the resources, to make the world better for people like you and Isabella. I want to find ways to honor what you've taught me about real wealth. Maya kissed Isabella's forehead as the toddler dozed against her shoulder. I need to think about everything. About what this means for Isabella, for us, for the future I'd imagined. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it, Emma promised. But I hope you'll remember that beneath all the money and success, I'm still the person who sat on your kitchen floor singing silly songs with Isabella. I'm still the woman who found her heart in your friendship. As Emma watched Maya carry Isabella into their building, she felt the profound uncertainty of having revealed her deepest secret. She'd gained honesty, but might have lost the most important relationship of her life. The diary that had brought them together had always been about truth. Maya's raw, honest truth about love and struggle and hope. Now Emma had offered her own truth, and only time would tell if it would unite them or drive them apart forever. That night, Emma sat in her empty penthouse, looking out at the city lights and thinking about a small apartment where a mother was probably reading bedtime stories to her daughter. Both of their lives forever changed by an unexpected friendship. Whether Maya could forgive her deception and accept the complexity of who she really was remained to be seen. But Emma knew that regardless of what happened next, Maya and Isabella had already given her the greatest gift possible. They had shown her how to love, how to find meaning beyond success, how to transform wealth into something that truly mattered. The billionaire who found a diary on a bus had discovered that the most valuable treasures couldn't be purchased. They could only be earned through genuine connection, honest vulnerability, and the courage to love without guarantee of return. Whatever the future held, Emma would carry that lesson with her forever, a reminder that the richest life was one measured not in dollars, but in the depth of relationships built on truth, compassion, and shared humanity. The week following Emma's revelation felt like the longest of her entire life. She threw herself into work with a desperate intensity, launching 3 new charitable initiatives and restructuring her company's employee benefits program. If Maya decided she couldn't forgive the deception, at least Emma would honor what their friendship had taught her about using privilege responsibly. She established emergency funds for single parents, created free childcare programs in underserved communities, and partnered with hospitals to provide support for families facing medical crises. Her executive team was bewildered by the sudden humanitarian focus. "These programs will cost millions," her CFO warned during a board meeting. "The shareholders are going to question the return on investment." "The return is immeasurable," Emma replied firmly. "We're investing in human dignity, in giving people the chance to thrive instead of just survive. That's worth more than any profit margin." But despite her professional accomplishments, Emma felt hollow without Maya and Isabella in her life. She found herself driving past Maya's neighborhood, hoping for a glimpse of them, but never stopping. She bought children's books and art supplies, then left them in her car, unsure if gifts would be welcome or seen as manipulation. On Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after their conversation in the penthouse, Emma's phone rang. Maya's name appeared on the screen, and Emma's heart nearly stopped. "Hello," she answered, trying to keep the desperation out of her voice. "Hi," Maya said softly. "Could you come over? Isabella keeps asking about you, and I think we need to talk." Emma was in her car within minutes, breaking several speed limits in her rush to reach Maya's apartment. She stood outside the familiar door, hands trembling as she knocked. When Maya opened it, Emma searched her face for clues about what she'd decided. "Emma lady!" Isabella shrieked, launching herself into Emma's arms with the wholehearted enthusiasm only children possessed. "You come back! Mama said maybe you come back!" Emma hugged the little girl tightly, breathing in her sweet scent and feeling a piece of her heart settle back into place. Over Isabella's head, she met Maya's eyes and saw something she hadn't dared hope for. Not anger or betrayal, but a complex mixture of understanding and possibility. "We need to figure this out," Maya said simply, "for her sake, if nothing else." They settled in the living room, Isabella immediately claiming her favorite spot on Emma's lap and beginning an elaborate story about a cat she'd seen in the courtyard. Maya watched them together with an expression that Emma recognized from her diary entries, the look of a mother evaluating what was best for her child. "I've been thinking about everything you told me," Maya began when Isabella became absorbed in her toys. "About your loneliness, about feeling empty despite all your success. And I keep coming back to something you said in your diary entry, the one about feeling invisible." Emma nodded, remembering the raw honesty of those words written in her corporate apartment late one night. "When I read that entry again," Maya continued, "I realized that wealth didn't protect you from the same feelings I wrote about. Different circumstances, same human needs. We were both invisible in our own ways, me because I had no money, you because you had too much." "I never thought about it that way," Emma said quietly. Maya pulled out her diary, the one that had started everything, and opened it to a page near the end. "I wrote something after you left that day. I want you to hear it." She cleared her throat and began reading. "Emma told me she's a billionaire today. I should be angry about the deception, and part of me is, but mostly I'm thinking about how lonely she must have been, living in that beautiful prison she showed me. Money didn't save her from feeling lost, any more than poverty saved me from feeling invisible. Maybe that's why we understood each other so well. We were both drowning, just in different oceans." Emma felt tears forming as Maya's words captured exactly what she'd been unable to articulate about her own experience. "The question now," Maya continued, "is whether we can build something real together, knowing who we both really are. You're not just Emma anymore. You're Emma Richardson. with all the complications that brings. And I'm not just Maya. I'm a single mother who will always put Isabella first, even when it's difficult. Isabella chose that moment to abandon her toys and climb back onto Emma's lap, settling in as if she belonged there. "Emma lady stay for dinner?" she asked hopefully. "That depends on your mama," Emma said, looking at Maya with cautious hope. Maya smiled, the first genuine smile Emma had seen from her since the revelation. "I made Isabella's favorite, grilled cheese and tomato soup. Nothing fancy, but there's enough for 3. As they prepared dinner together, Emma marveled at how natural it felt despite everything that had changed. Isabella chattered constantly, updating Emma on a week's worth of toddler adventures. Maya moved around her small kitchen with practiced efficiency, but Emma noticed new details. A stack of medical bills on the counter, a notice about Isabella's daycare raising their rates, the careful way Maya portioned ingredients to make them stretch. "I want to help," Emma said quietly as Maya stirred the soup. "Not because I pity you or because I think money solves everything, but because I care about you both. Let me find ways to make your lives easier without taking away your independence." Maya was quiet for a moment. What would that look like? "I don't know yet," Emma admitted. "We'd have to figure it out together. Maybe I could help with Isabella's education, make sure she has opportunities for music and art lessons. Maybe I could create job training programs that would help you advance in your career if that's what you want. Or maybe I could just be here, helping with everyday things, being part of your family." The word family hung between them, loaded with possibility and hope. Maya ladled soup into mismatched bowls, her movements thoughtful. "Isabella needs stability," Maya said finally. "She's already attached to you, thinks of you as part of her world. If we're going to do this, whatever this is, I need to know you're committed for the long term." Emma felt the weight of that commitment, the magnitude of what Maya was asking. "I've spent my entire adult life avoiding real relationships because they felt too messy, too complicated. But these past weeks with you and Isabella have been the most meaningful of my life. I'm not going anywhere." Dinner was a revelation in small moments. Isabella insisting on feeding Emma spoonfuls of soup, Maya sharing stories about her patients at the hospital, Emma finding herself planning weekend activities and future adventures. The conversation flowed naturally from practical concerns to deeper hopes, from childhood memories to dreams for Isabella's future. After Isabella was bathed and settled with a bedtime story, Maya and Emma sat on the small couch, the day's honest conversations having cleared the air between them. "I have an idea," Emma said carefully, "something that might help us figure out how to blend our worlds." Maya raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "What if you and Isabella came to stay in my penthouse for a few days? Not permanently, just long enough for you to see what that life might feel like. And then I could stay here for a few days, really living the way you do. We could both understand what we'd be asking of each other." Maya considered this. "You want to do an experiment? Trade lives temporarily?" "I want us to make decisions based on reality, not assumptions," Emma explained. "If we're going to build something together, we both need to understand what we're getting into." The following weekend, Maya and Isabella moved into Emma's penthouse with a small suitcase and countless questions from Isabella about the big house. Emma watched Maya explore the space with new eyes, no longer as a visitor, but as someone considering whether it could become home. "It's so quiet," Maya observed on their first morning, sitting in the enormous kitchen while Isabella played with wooden spoons and measuring cups. "In our apartment, we can hear neighbors, traffic, life happening. Here, it's like being suspended above the world." Emma nodded, understanding Maya's point in a way she never had before. "It is isolated. I never realized how much until I started spending time in your neighborhood, where people actually interact with each other." They spent the weekend discovering how Emma's wealth could serve their relationship without overwhelming it. Emma arranged for a chef to teach Maya advanced cooking techniques, turning the massive kitchen into a place of creativity rather than intimidation. Isabella delighted in the building's amenities: a play area, a small garden on the roof, friendly doormen who remembered her name after a single day. But it was the quiet moments that mattered most. Reading bedtime stories in Emma's master bedroom, now transformed by Isabella's presence into something warmer and more human. Maya working on her diary at the dining room table, while Emma answered emails nearby, both women comfortable in shared silence. Isabella's laughter echoing through rooms that had never heard a child's voice. "It could work," Maya said on Sunday evening as they prepared to return to her apartment. "But only if you're willing to change how you live. This place needs to become a home, not a showcase." Emma looked around her penthouse, already imagining the changes Maya's presence would bring. "What would you do differently?" "Pictures," Maya said immediately. "Real photographs of people you love, not expensive art that means nothing to you. Plants that need care and attention. Spaces designed for living, not impressing visitors. Books chosen because you want to read them, not because they look good on shelves." The second part of their experiment began immediately. Emma moved into Maya's apartment for a week, sleeping on the small couch while Maya and Isabella shared the bedroom. She experienced firsthand the challenges of their daily routine, the careful budgeting of time and money, the constant awareness of every expense, the way small spaces required creative solutions for storage and privacy. But she also discovered the richness Maya had tried to describe. Neighbors who checked on each other during storms, corner stores where merchants knew their customers, names, children playing together while parents supervised from stoops and fire escapes. This was community in its truest form, people creating family from friendship and building wealth from connection rather than currency. "You see it now," Maya said on Emma's third night on the couch, both women exhausted from their respective workdays. "Why I love this place despite its limitations. We're not just surviving here, we're living." Emma nodded, understanding finally what Maya had meant about different kinds of wealth. "I want both," she said quietly. "The resources to help people and the community that makes those resources meaningful." They spent the following months creating a new kind of life together, one that honored both Emma's capacity to give and Maya's need for independence. Emma quietly arranged for Isabella to attend a prestigious preschool, with a full scholarship disguised as a diversity initiative. Most importantly, they transformed Emma's penthouse into a real home. Photographs of Isabella's milestones covered the refrigerator. Maya's plants thrived on windowsills. The enormous living room became a play area where Isabella's toys mingled with adult furniture in joyful chaos. Emma learned to cook simple meals while Maya mastered the technology that could make their lives easier. The transformation wasn't just physical. Emma found herself approaching business decisions through the lens of their impact on families like Maya's. She restructured Richardson Technologies to prioritize work-life balance, created on-site childcare for employees, and launched mentorship programs for single mothers pursuing education or career advancement. Maya discovered that accepting help didn't diminish her independence when it came without conditions or expectations. She maintained her own bank account, her own friendships, her own dreams for the future. But she also learned to share burdens that had once felt overwhelming, to accept that love could multiply resources rather than diminish them. Isabella thrived in their blended family, equally comfortable in both homes, surrounded by adults who prioritized her happiness above all else. She started taking piano lessons, art classes, and swimming, all the enrichment activities Maya had dreamed of providing but never thought possible. One evening, 18 months after that fateful bus ride, Emma found Maya writing in her diary at the kitchen table of what was now their shared apartment. They'd kept Maya's place as their primary residence, using the penthouse for entertaining and as a retreat when they needed space. "What are you writing about?" Emma asked, settling beside Maya with a cup of tea. Maya smiled, closing the diary and leaning against Emma's shoulder. "About miracles that arrive disguised as mistakes. About how losing something on a bus can lead to finding everything you never knew you needed." Emma wrapped her arms around Maya, marveling at how natural this intimacy had become. Their relationship had evolved gradually from friendship to something deeper, built on foundations of trust, shared values, and mutual respect. They'd learned to navigate the complexities of their different backgrounds while creating something entirely new together. "Any regrets?" Emma asked, kissing the top of Maya's head. "Only that I waited so long to trust that good things could happen to us," Maya replied. "Isabella deserves this kind of love, this kind of stability. And so do I." Their story continued to unfold in daily moments of ordinary magic. Bedtime stories shared between three voices, birthday parties that mixed Maya's neighborhood friends with Emma's business associates, quiet evenings when work and worry faded in favor of simply being together. Emma had discovered that true wealth couldn't be measured in bank accounts, but in the fullness of a life built on love, purpose, and connection. The diary that started their journey remained on Maya's nightstand, its pages chronicling not just the struggles of single motherhood, but the transformation that occurred when two people from different worlds chose to build bridges instead of walls. Emma had found her purpose not in accumulating more success, but in using her resources to create opportunities for others. Maya had found that accepting help from someone who truly cared didn't diminish her strength but amplified it. As they prepared for bed in their small apartment, now expanded to include the adjacent unit Emma had quietly purchased, Isabella asleep between them in the king-sized bed that barely fit in the bedroom, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them together. A forgotten diary on a city bus had revealed not just one woman's struggles, but the universal human need for connection, understanding, and love. Their story proved that the most valuable discoveries often came disguised as accidents, that wealth meant nothing without people to share it with, and that the courage to be vulnerable with another person could transform everything. Emma had found her family in the most unexpected place, and Maya had learned that some dreams were worth the risk of believing in them. The billionaire who found a single mother's diary had discovered that the greatest fortune wasn't what she could accumulate but what she could give away: her heart, her time, her resources, her love. In return, she'd received something priceless: a life filled with meaning, connection, and the kind of happiness that money could never buy, but love could create in abundance. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.